Hey there, so I guess I'm going to split this into two parts as I was interrupted in the middle of this. And I don't want to go over all the ones that I was going over. I'll continue a little bit with the Free Weapon Master. It's going to be very good in the aggressive versions of the Jeskai decks. You can force through a lot of damage on some of your creatures. You can allow your creatures to trade up in more controlling versions as well as eating a creature. So this is going to be great. Flying Crane Technique is the best finisher in this format. I will very happily splash one color of these to play this card. It basically says, do you have creatures? Okay, you win. Giving your creatures flying and double strike turns anything with 4 power into 8 damage, turns anything with 3 power into 6 damage, and if you just have like 3 creatures, the game is over, even if you haven't done any damage this game. This is ridiculous. And notable, you're going to want to play this after the declare attacker step before the declare blocker step. So you get to untap your attackers, so even if they can somehow live, they're not going to be able to attack you back since your creatures are all untapped, and you'll have flying before they can declare their blockers. This can also be used defensively, not as effectively, but you can still surprise them and eat a bunch of creatures with flying and double strike. Next is Highspire Mountains. It's 4 mana for 3/3 flyer, which is 1 below the curve and also gets an upside of trample, so this card is great. Great flyer. Next is Ice Feather Aven. This is a very good card in this set. Bouncing creatures, especially morph creatures that have already flipped face up, just means that they're going to have to pay a lot more to get them down, so you can slow down their game a lot with this card. It has the upside of being able to be played as a 2 mana 2/2 flyer, so that's 1 below the curve. And I mean, this card should be good. It shouldn't be like great like it would be in some aggressive formats, but it should be good. Ivory Tusk Fortress, 5/7 for 5 is great. This ability is amazing. Suddenly you can use combat tricks at the end of your turn to be able to block with creatures. You can attack without worrying about defending. You can take out the whole decision that Abzan has to make of, do I make my guy bigger or do I block with it? So this is a bomb in Abzan decks, absolutely. And once you get a 1/1 counter on him, he starts working for himself too. Next is Jeskai Ascendancy. This is a great card. The first line of text is the most notable. It makes attacking into the Jeskai deck really difficult, even though they're attacking into you. And it turns your combat tricks that you play when you're attacking into, oh hey, I untap my creatures that are attacking as well. So yeah, very good with this whole untap all your guys and give them a little bit of a buff. You also get some incremental advantage out of drawing and discarding. Looting is naturally a little better in aggressive decks as well because you can drop lands and pick up threats, or pick up lands and drop mediocre threats. So being able to select what cards you have in an aggressive deck is very great, though it's just great in general. So next is Jeskai Charm, as if we needed more evidence that blue, red, white was an aggressive clan. What it does, you put a blocker on the top of their deck and they're going to just draw their blocker again, and it's going to be irrelevant. So you don't lose a card for forcing through damage with this. Or you can just straight up do 4 to them. You can finish them off, you can get them at a life total where they have to start blocking with certain creatures unprofitably. Or if they're trying to race you because they're Mardu, you can just say, oh, by the way, all my creatures have lifelink, I'll activate prowess on all of them, they'll get +2/+2, and suddenly you can't win this race. So very strong in an aggressive deck. Karu Lichlord, this guy's gonna, it's a very long ability, so I'll give you a second to read it, but basically he'll bring back random guys with flying and trample and haste, and then he'll exile them. So he is a little awkward with Delve. So this is actually one of the better cards to interact with a lot of graveyard stuff, because you're not going to be wanting to play a lot of Delve, so this effect can be pretty good. It'll force through some damage over time, giving 2 evasion abilities on a creature. Though random is a bit of a setback, it is going to start getting through some damage and doing some work. The body is a little overcosted though, so keep that in mind. Tree Invocation. This card ranges on bad to insane, though actually it doesn't even range on bad, because if there's a single bear, it's a 2-mana 2/2, which I'm not excited about, but you know what? It's playable, and the upside of being able to like get a 2-mana 7/7 is certainly there. So this card is very strong. Oh, sorry, among creatures you control. I will take that back. This card actually has a time when it's bad. If you're behind, this card does nothing for you. So, wow, this card went down a lot after I read that. It should be playable still, depending on your deck and how defensive you are, what sort of toughness you have. Like if you have a random 3/8, this can start making 8/8s, but this is more variant on your deck at this point. Next we have Mantis Raider, limited bomb, or I shouldn't say limited bomb, limited very, very great card. It's 2 below the curve for a flyer. It also has vigilance and starts swinging in on turn 3. So if you can get this going on turn 3, then that's great. Constructed, I don't think it's that great. There's just so many 3 damage removal spells, and Blow Blight, Lightning Strike, Anger of the Gods, just really powerful removal spells that just deal with this so easily. But in limited, great card. Mardu Ascendancy, I may be underestimating like random 1/1 Goblin tokens, but I really don't think I am. This first ability isn't tremendous. The best you can hope for is getting a raid activation off later on in the game with one of these tokens, and even then, you're not going to be getting it very often. They're just going to block with a morph guy, and your 1/1s will die. I don't know, this might be okay. If you are attacking with 4 guys, you get 4 more random 1/1s, so maybe in that situation, but still not excited. If you sacrifice it, you can give your creatures +0/+3. This effect has not been great as a card in limited, and there are some situations where it'll be okay, but no situation where it'll be great. So these 2 abilities, if you're behind, this card will do absolutely nothing for you. If you can't attack profitably, this card will do absolutely nothing for you. If you're ahead, it does some things, but it doesn't do a lot of things, so this card is pretty bad. Very disappointing for Ascendancy to be this bad. Mardu Charm, let's talk about more disappointments. Red, white, black. Does 4 damage to target creature. You put 2 1/1 white warrior creature tokens onto the battlefield. They gain first strike until end of turn, or you can duress your opponent. So dealing 4 damage to a creature, I really want to be paying 2 mana for that. Putting 2 1/1s with first strike into play, I really want to be paying 2 for that. And your opponent, you get a duress, I really want to be paying 1 for that. I don't want to be paying any more than 1 for this effect. And even in limited, this isn't great. So I would rather just have a card that costs 2 that says deal 4 damage to target creature, or a card that costs 2 that has this. This can have some random synergy with all warriors you control get +1/+0, but this isn't consistently better than 2 mana, and this isn't never consistently better than what you should be paying for 2 mana. This charm is very disappointing. It's going to be good, but it's not going to be nearly as close to the other charms. So Mardu getting the dual end of the stick for both the charms and the ascendancies. Mardu Roughrider, 5 mana, 5 power, it's 5/4 though. And when he attacks, he hammer hands a creature. That is fantastic. Gets a little worse on wider boards, so again, it's not going to be as good as it is in other formats, but geez, this guy's going to start getting through. Yeah, this is a very good card in aggressive deck. Should be a fine card in slower decks too, even. Less good. Master the Way, cantrips, and you get to do damage to something equal to the number of cards in your hand. I suppose if you're randomly a very, very controlling deck, which, I mean, blue-red, you're either playing Rug or you're playing Jeskai. Jeskai is a very aggressive deck, though it does hold up a lot of tricks, so maybe this card can be okay. No, this is way too overcosted. I want to be paying 1 mana for the cantrip ability, and the amount of damage I would have to get through for the extra 4 cost would have to be 4 or 5, and I can't see consistently getting 4 or 5 damage with this card. And it's just terrible to be like, oh, I top deck this, I can do 1 damage to something and draw a card for 5 mana. Yeah, not a good card. Mindswipe, absolutely unplayable, unless you're like randomly Tron and you want to try it out, but just awful. Awful. Don't play it unlimited ever. I can go over some numbers for you. You pay 3 mana for a Force Spike and dealing 1 damage to the spell's controller. Or are you paying 3 mana for a 1 mana spell with an irrelevant upside? You pay 5 mana for a Mana Leak and a Lava Spike. Or are you paying 5 mana for something you should be paying 3 mana for? Yeah, this is never efficient and it's never good. Heck, if you have a lot of mana and you really want to use this as a finisher, you can't even use it as a finisher until they play something, so you might not even be able to. So it's just bad. Really bad card. Narset Enlightened Master. 6 mana, 3/2, first strike, hexproof, yada yada. This should really cost 4. I'd be very happy with it if it cost 4. At 6 mana, they're going to have a lot of 4/4s. They're going to be able to double block you. The inconsistency of its ability to be able to just miss out the top 4 cards of your library means that your Narset can just die occasionally. First Strike and Hexproof is very nice because they can't really stop your combat tricks from blowing you out. However, I don't like it when my bombs are reliant on me having other cards to make them work. And I don't like it when my bombs have inconsistent abilities. So this is absolutely not a bomb. It might be just playable. And sometimes it might just be unplayable. It really depends on your deck. So yeah, actually, this is the worst clan leader. By a lot. Though many people will tell you otherwise. Ponyback Brigade. Basically, you can pay 6 mana for 4 guys and 5 power. Or you can pay 5 mana for 4 guys and 5 power. They just keep trying to dig into this whole goblin token thing, and I just keep saying no. But who knows, I may be totally wrong, but I just don't feel like this is going to be great. Even just enabling raid 3 times, that's not worth paying 6 mana for a 2/2, or 5 mana and 3 for a 2/2. Rakshasa Death Dealer. In limited, this card is very hard to block before turn 4 or 5 even. And even if they can, you can start regenerating. Like if they flip up a morph creature and say, I'm going to kill your guy, even if you pump it, you're just like, oh, I'll regenerate it. I know what your guy is now. This guy can start eating 4/4s in the later portions of the game with using both abilities. You can actually use this pump ability multiple times per turn, which is something that not a lot of things have, so this can get out of hand really quickly. You'll have to be playing heavier black and green than you are your third color, however, this is a very, very good card. Rakshasa Vizier. It's a 5 mana 4/4, and if you exile cards from your graveyard, it gets bigger. 5 mana 4/4 I'm not a big fan of. Delve based decks I'm not a big fan of. This guy is very slow. He's going to be inconsistent for a lot of the good decks that aren't running a lot of Delve. So you have to have a very specific deck for this to be a bomb, and even in that one it's a little inconsistent, so not a big fan. Ride Down, this is fantastic removal. It's going to be a big player in your aggressive decks. It's going to trigger prowess because you're playing red, white, blue if you have any brains at all. Or if you didn't pull a Mardu bomb, I should say. Or if you really want to play Mardu, I guess. So sorry about that for all you Mardu players out there. I just think Jeskai is the better version of the Mardu deck. Fantastic at removing a creature, still force through damage, just great card. Uncommon, a little disappointing versus like how many solid defending removal spells there are at common. I wish this was common too. Though I understand you're still getting damage through. Five mana, 3/4 flyer. So yes, that's a reasonable body. And if you play a non-creature spell, you give your creatures lifelink. Not the best ability in the world, but it's an on-curve flyer. And if you're racing a Mardu deck because you're both aggressive, you're gonna start winning the race with this ability. So it's consideration. Sagu Mauler, 6/6 trample hexproof for 6, already great. Morph. Surprise, I have a 6/6 trample hexproof. Means that you can eat removal, you can start forcing through damage, you can attack on turn 5 with a 6/6 trample that can't be removed. This guy's going to be very good. He's not going to be a bomb, but he's going to be very good. My favorite card in the set, we finally come to it. Savage Knuckleblade. This guy's going to force through 4 damage until your opponent has an answer for a 6/6. And even when they have an answer for a 6/6, he's going to be impossible to remove in the very late points of the game. Even if you bounce him back to your hand, you can still swing with him. And dear God, 3 mana 4/4 that's just going to force through damage so easily until like turn 6, turn 5, turn 6. So you get 8 damage out of him and get these 3 abilities in the late game. Jeez, just amazing, amazing card. Secret Plans, this card is unplayable. If you want to consider playing a Morph enchantment, you better be playing Trail of Mystery. This is awful. Don't play it. CDC, 4 mana for a 3/3, so it's kind of like a Hill Giant. A little underwhelming considering the sorts of 3 colored mana symbols it has. So a bit below the curve. You enable one of your Delve cards because usually the good Delve cards will take 3 cards to play them efficiently. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, the problem is attacking with this. You're not going to be able to do it a lot of the time. You might be able to do it once on the play because they'll just have a Morph guy, and maybe, no, even then they might just have another guy and then they'll double block you. So this can only enable like 2 Delve cards on its own. But the second ability I like a lot. You can get a lot of upside for your Delve enablers. You can put a lot of power onto the battlefield. So this second ability is really what you're playing it for. And just the incremental advantage of being able to play one of your Delve cards easier. Siege Rhino, this card's great. I finally found out why they put Lightning Helix on a white, black, green card. I suppose black also involves life loss. So black, white, life loss. Green, it's a Rhino. It has trample. So flavor-wise, it works. And 4 mana 4/5 trample, awesome. Random pseudo-relevant upside, awesome. Yeah, happy. He scales really well with 1/1 counters too because he has trample, so something else to note. Like imagine you give this guy a +1/+1 counter, you have the guy that says +1/+1 counters give creatures flying. Flying rhinos. Flying 5/6 trample rhinos for 4. Jesus, I want to do that sometime. Kill them with flying rhinos. Snowhorn Rider. 6 mana, 5/5 trample that can start swinging turn 5. Happier with this card than some of the other expensive creatures that should have trample but don't. This guy is relatively efficiently costed and should be okay in a lot of your Temur decks. Sorin, not the bomb that Sarkhan is, but at worst he's probably just going to get you 4 flying power for 4 mana, so that's really great. Really great. At best you're winning and he'll close out a game just by saying +1/+1, -6. So he's going to be pretty good, pretty great, just not a bomb. Soultie Ascendancy, this is one of the few ways I think you can actually make a heavier delve deck. It gets you a lot of incremental advantage over time through the combination of being able to enable delve as well as pick cards that you'll need. Over the course of 3 turns, you should already be getting value out of this card, and past that, you should just be winning the game through simple card selection. This can be a very splashable card as well. Soultie Charm, monocolored creature, artifact or enchantment, draw 2 cards, discard. So every deck's going to have monocolored creatures, even if they're not as good as the multicolored creatures. So this is going to be fine removal. Well, not as good on average as the multicolored creatures, I should say. Artifacts, enchantments, just having this tacked on makes it easier to deal with certain cards, and namely Ascensions, and you can play it in the main deck because it's removal already. And if they just are loaded up with multicolor creatures, aren't playing any artifacts or enchantments, you can just randomly draw 2 cards, discard a card, help enable some delve, help get you some card advantage. I mean, so this card's very good. Actually, you know what? This isn't card advantage. This is card selection, because you're drawing 2 cards, spending a card, and discarding a card, so it's like draw 2, discard 2. So, but card selection's not bad. And this puts itself in the graveyard, so you're putting 2 cards in your discard, and that makes it better for your enabling delve too. So, Soultie Soothsayer. This makes one of your delve cards good. It's a decent body for 5 mana, and it draws you a card when it enters the battlefield, so very good card. Surak Dragonclaw. This is a removal spell that can't be countered. As a 6/6 with flash for 5, you're going to easily block something and just kill it. Other creatures you control have tramples, a little bit of extra value, but mainly this is a 6 mana for 5, 6/6 for 5 with flash, which is great. Temur Ascendancy, not too hard to play creatures with power 4 or greater and just drown them out in card advantage. Haste is nice to have on a lot of your creatures. You can start forcing through some damage. So this card's going to be pretty great. Temur Charm, instant speed, hunt the weak effectively. You don't get the counter, but you do get the +1/+1, and you do get the instant speed, so I consider that a nice advantage. So that'll act as removal if you have a creature on the board, so it's a little situational, but hey, it's a charm. Situational abilities aren't bad on a charm, especially if they're situationally powerful like this one is. Next one is Mana Leak. Talk about situationally powerful, which is the sorts of abilities you want on a charm. This is situationally very powerful. They play some, you're just going to hold this up in your hand. If they play something you can't deal with, you can counter it. If they don't, you can use it as removal. Last ability is like this mini falter ability. I don't expect it to be amazing, but I do expect it to be a role player. You can consider splashing this in Jeskai as well if you have some green ways to splash. Just like his third ability, you trigger prowess on all your creatures and all their 0/6s, 1/5s, yada yada. Just can't block this turn, so that might be very good. Trap Essence. It's an essence scatter that you can also put some counters on a creature. So this can be very great. I like this card in Limited a lot. Even though it costs one more than Essence Scatter, the instant speed ability to put 2+1/+1 counters on a creature, I think is more than worth the extra mana, even the extra colored mana. So what's notable about counterspells is they're much worse when you're behind because they don't put you back in the game, but it should be very good at dealing with a lot of really hard to deal with cards. Next is Utter End. This is solid removal limited. You're just going to play it and be very happy. It can answer many things. Villainous Wealth. You go over the statistics. If they're playing an aggressive deck, you're not really going to get anything for it. There's not a lot of ramp to make this start getting into the ridiculous range, so this is just going to take way too long to make work. It's going to be inconsistent. You don't know what your opponent's going to have versus what you're going to have, and just way too variant in power and way too slow to be good. Warden of the Eye. So you get to get back a trick basically to enable prowess some more, and you get a 5-mana 3/3 with effectively draw a card. Seems pretty good. Depends on the sorts of tricks you have in your graveyard and the sorts of tricks that you have, but he could be good. Winterflame. Straight into the Jeskai deck with you. You're going to enable prowess, you're going to tap a creature, you're going to shock something that can be shocked. So this can potentially be like 1/1, activate prowess, tap down their other blocker for 3 mana. Awesome. This is definitely a more aggressively geared card. However, it should be fine in slower decks as well, because despite the fact that it's a 3-mana shock, it's a 3-mana shock that helps preserve your life total a bit. So, like, if Morph wasn't in this format, the shock at 3 mana wouldn't be as relevant, but Morph is in the format, so you're going to get a 1/1, and you're going to help your board state even out. So this card is great. Very first pickable. Zergo Helm Smasher. 5 mana 7/2 with haste. He attacks each combat if able, and he is indestructible. Yada yada. This card says answer me or die. The unfortunate thing is that there's a lot of things to answer him. From infinite chump blockers to exile removal spells to them taking 7, dealing with a shock on their turn, to then letting you eat a creature and then like playing suspension field or something like that. Like, there's enough ways to answer this card in this set that it's not going to be the absolute monster that it would be in some other sets. That said, it's great. You're going to play it every time, and just because if they don't have an answer, they're going to die really quickly to this card. Alright, that's it. Thank you very much for watching, and you have a great day.